Well, hello everybody. Wi-Fi is a little squirrely today, so I'm going to try to get through this video. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to post below and we'll take it from there, okay? Or during this session, please feel free to ask questions, okay, while we're live. It's okay by me, especially regarding the topic, okay? If it's not regarding the topic, then post privately. Post, on the page or something, okay? When you are on the internet, you're searching for different things on Google. Hi Felicia, how are you? Good to see you. When you're searching for something on Google regarding the paralegal, career or jobs, you inadvertently are going to find a lot of sarcasm and snarkiness. And I like to call them horror stories. And people dedicating a whole web page to not being a paralegal anymore because of what they've faced. But that can go for any job that you're in. The most grief I have ever faced in a job was not in the legal field. It was working in a corporate job as an administrative assistant. Horrible. And no, I didn't stay, but it catapulted me into the legal field. So was it worth going through that? No. Did I learn a lot? Yes. I learned a bunch. And so, hey Audrey, good to see you. So when you're searching on the internet, put that stuff over to the side. The value I find in the snarkiness and sarcasm is I get to teach you what the reality is and how to avoid some of the crazies that are out there. Okay, because yes, there are people who should not be practicing law. There are people who should never be a manager in the corporate world too. So it goes for any job, okay? It's not like one particular job is going to be utopia and everything is perfect. There's no such thing. So the most important thing is to know what your rights are. Always, as an employee, period. Not just for the legal field, but you have to be aware of what people are allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. And there are laws governing that, overseeing that, what people who hire other people are allowed to do and are not allowed to do. Okay? So when it comes to your lunch hour and your breaks, you need to do some research regarding labor law, okay? Because it used to be where employers abused all that. When my grandmother was working in a factory, children were working in factories all over the country. In New Jersey, my grandmother worked as a child in factories until the laws were put in place where children could not be abused in that way. An 8-year-old, 9-year-old child doesn't need to be at a dangerous machine. And there were no laws like OSHA that protects workers in the factory and that insists employers have safety devices on machinery now. But back then, no such thing. So people stood up for the children and put in those laws, okay? Same for those of us who've been employed by other people. You have to have a lunchtime, and you have to have, as far as I understand, a break in the morning and in the afternoon. What I read online was somebody was saying that she couldn't even take a break to go to the restroom without people getting all upset. That is beyond ridiculous. Not on her end, but I would never put up with that. Never, never in a bazillion years. You have to ask yourself, why are you going to put up with it? I've been in a position where I've been desperate for a job when I was the only support for my immediate family after my husband lost his job because of craziness in the corporate world, and many other people besides him were let go, again, because of craziness. So it's important that you know your rights, okay? And that you know, one of the things I teach my students is how to interview properly, okay? And that is vitally important. If you sit there and don't ask questions, then you're not going to understand what the culture of the law firm is like. Hey, Audrey. Yeah, that's not, well, as far as I know, Audrey, according to labor laws, that's not cool. That's against the law. But you would have to just, the thing is, and you'll get it, everybody will get it when I say this. I like to find out before I land the job what the culture is like. Because after you land the job is not the time to, and that's not against you, Audrey. I'm talking to myself because I didn't ask the right questions years ago. And then I was kind of shocked by things thrown at me or what I was expected to do, and that includes in the legal field. Nothing super out of line, but I thought it was a little cagey, a little deceptive, okay? So do attorneys act like that? Some do. That's why before you accept a job, when I tell you to ask questions, well, I teach my students the right questions to ask and the time to ask them during the interview, okay? But let's talk about the things that you shouldn't compromise on, okay? Lunch hour and breaks. Go into the ladies' or men's room. That can't be compromised. It's not too cool if you're going to hang out there for half an hour just to get away from the office. But that will make it bad for everybody else. But that's not something that you should ever compromise on. And you can't abuse it, though, okay? And mess around with that and take advantage of it. So if you're coming back late from lunch, that's not going to go well. Number 2. So you were told you start at 8:30. And for a lot of you, that is a time that may work for you if you have children, or your schedule, whether you have children or not, your schedule will not allow you to start at 8, let's say. You know, for me, I had my mom living with me, and it worked out better for me to work at 8:30 than 8 o'clock. I had breakfast to make for her. She could not do any of this herself. And she lived with me the whole year before she passed. So, you know, there were no exceptions to that for me. So I have to get that out on the table in an interview so that the attorney knows that I've got a responsibility at home and I have to talk about that. After you get hired is not the time to talk about it. You have to be fair to them too. But it's not fair if you accept a job, 8:30 or 8 o'clock is your start time and you're okay with that. But when you start the job, it's switched to 7 a.m. You know, somebody was saying that was online, that happened to her. I would not accept that. I would start applying for other jobs immediately. I would not accept that unless you get off early, but that wasn't the case with her. So, all right, let's look at another. Does that happen in every law firm? No. But I'm giving you a heads up as to the things you have to get clear, okay, before you get hired. You don't put that in your resume or cover letter, okay? It's in person. This next one was very much abused and can be abused by attorneys, where they want you to work overtime regularly, but they don't want to pay for it, so they're going to give you that time in days off or hours off. The problem with that is if you're with an attorney who never wants you to take time off. Now, in reality, a lot of law firms have gone to, they've gone away from saying sick days. They just call it personal time, and they don't call it sick time. That gets to be crazy, and they got sick of dealing with that, and so they just do personal time. But you've got to make sure you take it, or a lot of them don't carry over that time to the next year, and they don't accumulate it. So you know, if you have to take it like on a, you have to just make sure you take your time. Don't get into a thing where you're a martyr and you're just gonna work for the sake of the firm. You have to have a life, and you make sure that you take your time off. You know, it's harder when you're a new person and you are the new one in the law firm, and Thanksgiving and Christmas are rolling around. A lot of people who have been there for a while at the law firm or government office or corporate legal department, they will have seniority over you, so they will take off maybe that Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday or the whole week before Thanksgiving, and then also take off if Christmas Eve and Christmas fall on a weekend or whatever. They'll take the days around it off, and you won't be able to. You'll be off for those holidays, but I mean, and the offices are usually closed on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Most offices are. So you have to understand that there's a hierarchy in the law firm. The people who have been there longer than you will have first dibs on those types of perks, you know, getting those days off, than you will. But you need to make sure that when you start a job, that if you have a wedding to go to in 6 months, that you get that down on the calendar and you save your time, the days that you accumulate for that. Or you need to go visit family for some family reunion or function, and you have to fly or drive a long distance, that you get that down on a calendar, okay? Don't wait till like 2 weeks before. But you deserve to take your days off. That's my point, okay? But don't ever, you know, doing it with giving you days off, that it's problematic if they won't give you the time off. It's not convenient for them, and it's constantly giving you that excuse. Don't let that happen, okay? That's not a place you want to work if they're being shady like that. And some have been shady like that. The other thing I see is that I know of an attorney locally here that insists that a paralegal be at the law firm every Saturday. Not the same paralegal, he has 3 or 4 of them, but that there be one paralegal there every Saturday, and that means they have to rotate. I don't like people being required to work weekends. People need 2 days off in a row, and I don't think that's right. So the only reason this person does it is because there are no phones and they can get a lot of work done. And there are no clients to see. And so there's more work that can get done with and people coming in for appointments. So, and his office is busy. He has a good practice. So the thing is, that type of thing you should know before you accept the job. You know, and the last thing I want to talk about is that some attorneys have said after the person was hired, I want you to carry around a cell phone and be available 24/7, kind of. Well, that's ridiculous. You're not an ATM machine. That's what one of my mentors said to me. Nobody should do that. You're not an ATM machine. I thought that was a good analogy, because then you're never away from the law firm. Don't accept that. Don't roll over and play dead when these things happen. Okay? Is that a question you should ask in the interview? What do you think? That you will be expected to carry a cell phone and be available even on the weekends or at night? that is beyond abusive and ridiculous. So don't fall into those traps. Yes, there are people that do those things. Have I worked for anybody that did that? No. I had one person, and he was a mentor of mine, try to call me at the house. And my husband answered the phone, and I just went like this. And because he said his name, and I went like this. I said, let me see if she's still here, because she was going shopping with our daughter. And so he said, no, they already left. And I did not call him back. He tried that a couple times, and I would not be part of that. Okay. And I made it known that my weekends are for me in a nice way, and that we were really busy on the weekends, or we had company, and I just can't get on the phone. There's too much noise in the house. So it's harder with cell phones. You know, when we had just landlines, you could be away, maybe you didn't hear the phone, but now we carry our phones with us. So, but you should never be available 24/7 to anybody but your family. Okay? So there's nothing written in stone that you have to do that for anybody. That's where people cross the line, whether it's a legal job or non-legal job. If they're asking you to do that, that is not acceptable. The only time a family member, my husband, had to do that is when he worked for a time. He worked for a, I won't say the name, but a rent-a-car at an airport, and he was a manager. And he had to carry the phone with him. And he said, you know, I'm worried about it all the time. And I never get completely away from the job. And and that's why I don't want you to accept anything like that for you when you go into the legal field. You have to stand up for yourself. And if that's how they want to operate their business, and I think it's a terrible way, you don't need to be part of that. But you need to find out before you accept the job. When I accepted one job, what was thrown at me was that I would have to, when somebody, the one attorney I worked for, he had a rental house, and he rented to people in our town, and he had one house, and so they had to bring cash, and I had to give them a receipt. No, I didn't think that was my responsibility. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like handling that cash because it was a lot, and I had to lock it in his drawer, and I had somebody else count it out for me. Our receptionist double counted it. We counted it so we knew we had the right amount of money, and I didn't want to be responsible for that cash going missing either. So I was very uneasy about that. So would I ask that question in an interview if I am going to be responsible for anything like that? Yes, I definitely would. So a lot more questions to ask other than those that I've given you. Yeah, Audrey, I don't think that, I mean, that's terrible that you don't get breaks. Yeah, no wonder you go and nap when you get home. I know what that is like. And tell me that it's in New Jersey. Because I know what they're like there. That's where I used to live. All right, so guys, while you're on here with me, do you have any questions whatsoever? Excuse me. If you do, don't be shy. Just, oh, hey, Sophia, how are you? Trying to see if anybody, sometimes Facebook will only show like 4 comments and that's it. I'll tell you what's happening with me. On Saturday, I ended up, if this has ever happened to you, you know what it feels like. I have a tooth where the nerve is acting up. Oh, that hurt. There's nothing like tooth pain. So August 4th, I have to wait to have a wonderful root canal. But I'm taking meds to mainly ibuprofen to keep the pain away and antibiotics. But that they put it off till the 4th to make sure that the antibiotics have time to work. But it's not too painful right now. Hallelujah. Yay, thank you, God. But it was terrible for about 2 days. Excuse me. So, did you guys have a good weekend? Did you do anything special over the weekend? Angie, I know. I was in labor with my first baby, but then I had to have a C-section, emergency C-section. But I went through 4 or 5 hours of labor. This, to me, is worse because it's like it radiates and it goes back here and up in here and it just is horrible. And I was taking 2 Tylenol and it wasn't doing it, and so I'm taking a little bit more, and the dentist wouldn't give me any pain medicine, and I'm okay with that. If ibuprofen, if that can keep the pain subsided, then I'll be okay. Yeah, right, Joe? Yeah. It's amazing how painful that is, and I'm taking a chance because the guy who did one other root canal I had done years ago is in Tallahassee, and it's 4 hours from here. No, more than that. No, it's about 4 hours, 4.5 hours. And that's where I used to live. And I thought, should I go to him? But my husband had a lot of work done by our regular dentist, and now they didn't do root canals before, now they do. And I know them. They would have gone through incredible training, the latest and greatest techniques. So I'm taking a chance and having them do it. So hopefully I'll be so numbed up I won't care. But the guy in Tallahassee, oh my gosh, he's brilliant. He is. And if you're in that area and you need an endodontist, his name is Eduardo Hubbard, Hubbard. Okay. Yeah, I'll promote him like crazy. So, okay. While we're on, for those who may not be aware, make sure you go to my website. I'm reading Joe's comment. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Joe. I'll take any and all recommendations. Because I've got today's the 21st. I've got 2 weeks to wait. But I was determined to do this video today. Even if it's just achy, then it's fine. I'll take it. I'll take achy, right? But that throbbing pain where you can hear your heartbeat. It's so ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Joe, for that. Yeah, I was surprised that he didn't offer something. But I think they're afraid to, honestly. I think maybe they're limited too. I don't know. But I have the antibiotic from him, but not any pain medicine. And I don't really want that stuff, if at all possible. My mother, before she passed, she was on the highest quantity of, oh gosh, I'll forget what it is now. Well, it would be oxycodone. That because of arthritis pain, rheumatoid and osteo. So, yeah, she was in a lot of pain. So the highest she could be on, she was on. But it takes a toll on your body when you have a chronic problem, right? So, all right. Do you guys have any questions at all about that? I want you to, be aware that you'll see that junk all over the internet, and it's disheartening to me because instead of solving those problems, and they're solvable one way or the other. It's either where you ask the right questions before the interview, or if you're already in a situation like that, you do have choices. And that means you don't stay working for somebody like that, because I find that to be abusive. Abuse of power, right? And employers do that. Crazy managers do that. So I think tomorrow I'm going to address another issue that a lot of beginners struggle with, because they hear it from a lot of people. And I've talked about it before, but I want to talk about things that I'm finding on the internet about not having experience and breaking into the field. That people will keep telling you, oh yeah, they're only hire people with experience. That's not true. And that will be very disheartening if you're a student in a 2-year program, or you're getting a certificate, or you know, you're not doing any of that and you want to break into the field. Don't buy into that. One of the things I teach my students is how to get in. I mean, that's the biggest, the reason, this stupid hair today, the reason I put together my course was because people were saying, I can't get in because they're only hiring people with experience. Do you know every paralegal or legal assistant or legal secretary sitting at their desk right now started off with no experience? And most of them didn't have internships, externships, any of that. Okay, they all started off in a job and they had 0 experience. So that should lift you up. They're out there. Okay, attorneys will hire people without experience. Don't buy into that. You will have people selling you that bill of goods all day long. And especially people who tried to get in and they couldn't, and they want to attribute that to no experience. I will tell you it's not true. And it's not because I started 30 years ago and it's different now. I've had that said to me. I was not in the same job for 30 years. So I had to change jobs, and you say, well, Leslie, but by that time you had experience. True, but how do you explain people that have gone through my course and then they get jobs, they land jobs, or they land many interviews and then they can pick? So that doesn't really, mesh, does it, with what is being said? So don't do that. That's because they didn't know how to communicate with the attorney, okay? And it is absolutely not true. So tomorrow I'll talk about that scenario, okay? That is the big stumbling block for a lot of people, and it doesn't have to be, okay? All right, so I'm going to sign off. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. Thanks for your advice, Joe, on the meds. I need it. And yeah, believe it or not, I took 4 ibuprofen. And my husband had been on ibuprofen for a lot because of back pain, and had back surgery last fall. And so I don't want to be on that level of ibuprofen any longer than I have to be. But I think I may switch it up, like you were saying, Joe. And National NALA certified, Angie? No, they don't have to be. You don't have to be NALA certified to get a job. Down the street from NALA in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the Chamber of Commerce before I went into the legal field. Yeah, well, Lisa, you can go into a program or not, but the program doesn't necessarily go and open the door. It's how you're going to help the attorney. Okay, so, and it's not based on experience, and it's not based on being certified. There's nothing wrong with being certified, okay? Nothing wrong with that. The legal field is no different than being a pharmacy tech. Now listen to what I'm going to say. There are pharmacy tech courses all over the place. And then there's a test you have to take in order to be a pharmacy tech, okay? Do you have to take the courses to be a pharmacy tech, or do you have to just take the test. You can take the test. And my cousin did this, okay? So somebody came in to work and said, well, where'd you all go take your course? A new employee came in. And she said, you know, where'd you go to school? Where'd you take your course? And my cousin and several other people there said, we didn't. We just took the test. Now, there's no such animal like that. There's no such thing like that in the paralegal realm where you just go take a test and then you're good, okay? There are tests out there and certifications, but understand that nobody said you have to, and attorneys don't demand that. Some look for it. Some look for people who, some of the ads, they'll say certain things and some won't, right? Why is that? Ask yourself that question, okay? And it's not, I don't want to hear that about California. Everybody has to have this. The attorneys will, some attorneys will fight that because they don't want to be told who to hire. This is a whole other area that you guys need to expose yourself to. If all you're concerned with is being certified and having a 2-year degree. And if all you talk to are people who got in that way, then you will hear that. But if you talk to me and a lot of other people just recently who've gotten into the legal field, I mean, not as many since February because of the pandemic, obviously, but you're not limited because you can't afford to go to school, because you don't want to go to school. You have a bachelor's in psychology, but you think this is the career for you. Well, it doesn't. I'm not saying you need to have a degree. I'm saying don't limit yourself because you can't afford to do this, and don't go into debt to get in this field. Don't rack up school debt and then worry about how to pay it off. Okay? Be very careful with that. But am I against people getting their 2-year degree? Never. Am I against people getting a certificate? No. But am I saying that it's absolutely mandatory? No. And the thing that you should become familiar with is the regulations in your state for paralegals. Who can be called a paralegal in your state? That is something you should look up. I know the regulations for many of the states, but I want you to be aware as to who can call themselves a paralegal. And does everybody need to go the same route? The answer is no. I don't believe in excluding anybody. So not everybody has thousands of dollars to go to school or to spend on a certificate, right? Not everybody can do that. And so if those people that can't afford it can't get in because every attorney demands that you have this, that's not what the truth is. It is not. Not at all. So bravo if you're going that route. But my course is to teach you how to help the attorney. Okay, the first 2 modules are cover letters, dissecting the job ad. Let's see, the 3rd module is the interview. And then the last 5 modules are all about working in the office and all of that. Okay? So you want to join us? Join us in August on the 22nd. Okay? And no, but there's no, no course has to be certified by NALA. I can make a course that based on my experience and my knowledge after 30 years, and that's what I did. And it's and so I hope you'll join us in August. I've had people come on board who actually were already working as entry-level paralegals. When they got on the job, they saw how little they did know. And so, this took them the extra step. So, but I would recommend you take it before you start a job, before you start sending off resumes and cover letters incorrectly. Okay, and then you won't get responses, and then you're going to think it's because of experience. It's not so. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Okay, so yeah, Lisa, you can, if you're still here, you can actually, if you have office experience, and that's mandatory, by the way, you've got to have office experience. You've got to be able to type and, know how to file, alphabetically, that type of thing, organized. So you can look at the foundation skills. You can go hold on guys, get a free, hold on, let's see who this is. Okay, robocall. You can get a free chapter of my book, Legal Break-In, on my website, paralegalcoffeetalk.com, and you can get the whole book, and there might be a link right on the page for that now. There should be, but you can scroll through the feed and find that. Be sure you go to the website to look at 2 complimentary items. It's paralegalcoffeetalk.com, write this down, and then look for the 19 alternative paralegal careers list, and then get the free chapter of my book, Legal Break-In. And if you want the whole book, there's a tab for that, okay? Look also at the tab called Paralegal Inner Circle Class. And then below that will be bar charts. And make sure, I don't have it with me, but make sure you look at the legal terminology bar chart. Or you can buy a dictionary and have that. But most law firms or legal departments of a corporation, they will very often have a big legal dictionary, or you can look it up right online on your phone, or on the desktop computer at work when you land your first job. So, but I like to have this bar chart and carry it around with me, and sometimes I'll ask you guys what a definition of something means, just to see if you know, or you can look it up. All right, so have a great one, and any questions, comments, please post below, and I will talk to you in the next video tomorrow about why the lack of experience should not hinder you from landing a job. And this is not regarding jobs right now, although there are remote paralegal jobs popping up all over the place because attorneys are having to work remotely, virtually, instead of in the office. So that's interesting. Life is going to change in the legal field, I believe. So have a great one, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.